Good morning, everyone. I'm back with my new video lecture, but this time it's not on any topic related to education management and administration, as some students had requested for the topic from sociology. So today we're just trying to understand the concept of education and social change. You know, the word education, it is a broad concept. It refers to all the experiences in which the learner can learn something. So it is a social endeavor designed to get the maximum from the ability to each of the member of the society. So education covers both the learning and teaching of values and knowledge in the individual. So it consists of systematic instructions, teaching and training by professional teachers. So we can say that education, it promotes the acquisition of the skills and knowledge, and it broadens its personal horizons. You know, as far as the social change is concerned, we all know that the change is a law of nature, and change in society are always taking place. Whether the change they are slow or they may be rapid, and sometimes they may be so slow that people not even perceive them, and sometimes they may be so rapid and drastic. So in all spheres of the life, you know, things are changing in the economic sphere, they are changing in political fields, in the sphere of education, and so on. So social change to a great extent are brought about through the process of education only. So you may define the social change as the change that take place in human interactions and interrelations, or you may define the social change as the change in lifestyle of a group or a community or society. You can also define the social change as the change in social structure and functions of various units which form the society. And here, the social structure includes the social institutions like family, like marriage system, like caste system, educational institutions. You can include the customs, manners, you know, dress, literacy forms, language, and food habits as well, and so on. So, you know, we can now say that by social change, we mean all those changes, you know, all those changing activities which have changed the form and structure of the society so drastically that these changes look distinct and visible. You know, there are some definitions as well of social change. Let's have a look on the definitions. So first is from the Sir Jones, and according to him, the social change is a term used to describe the variations in or modification of any aspects of social progress, social interactions, or social organizations. Second is from the Spencer, and according to him, you know, social changes are uniform, they are gradual and progressive. As I already told you that some changes may be rapid and some changes may be gradual. So one more definition is from the Ogburn, and according to him, there is no distinction between the social change and cultural change. And cultural change is of two types, according to him. That is the change in the material culture and the change in the non-material culture. And according to him, you know, material culture is concerned with all those things and objects which man has made for his comfort, which man has made for his happiness. And that is, you can include the means of communication, means of transport, you can include the refrigerator or AC, all such things and objects which man has made for his comfort and happiness. And non-material culture is concerned with human ideas, like you can include the values, you can include the ideals, you can include the habits, customs, and traditions as well. So therefore, you know, change in material culture occur first, and then it brings about the change in the non-material culture. So we can say that, you know, the change, we can say that, you know, in light of these definitions, we can say that social change cannot be defined as a new fashion or mode in the life of people or in operation of a society. So social change includes the modification in social techniques, in relationships, in behavior patterns, in folkways, more and institutions. So sometimes leading to a change in philosophical outlook. In short, we can say that social change is the change in the cultural attribute, material or non-material. So this change is so distinct that we can easily come to the conclusion that society in general has deviated from its accepted norms, and man, an active part of the society, brings this change. If we see the relationship of education and social change with respect to the education, as I already told you, that change is a natural phenomenon, and you know, all things including the ideas, including the culture, civilization, and human activities, they all are changeable. And the situation that existed 20 years ago does not exist today, and it will not remain so even after 10 or 20 years. So if we see the relationship of education and social change, and how education plays a role in bringing about the social change, and what could be the dimensions of education with respect to the society. Education is a most powerful tool of social change, and it's the only because of the education that society can bring the desirable change and modernize itself. And it can also transform the society by providing the opportunities and experiences through which the individual can cultivate himself with the emerging needs. And therefore, careful planning is very must in anything. And a sound social progress needs a careful planning in every aspect of life, whether it is social, whether it is cultural, economic, and political. So education must be planned in a manner which is in keeping the needs and aspirations of the people as whole. So, we can say that social change, it also widens the scope and credibility of education physically as well as ideologically. Change, social change, any change like social change, they are really necessary for all types of progress and development. And but these changes, they adversely affect our universal as well as the local values and ideals many times. So in both the cases, the role of education, it becomes very significant. Besides these factors resisting to social change, it can be controlled or modified only by the education. So, that's why we say that it widens the scope and credibility of education physically as well as ideologically. And people come to know many new ideas. They come to know about the new objects, about the new ideas only because of the social change. So, this process of human progress, it continues unabated. We will now just try to elaborate this interrelation of education and social change in the following ways. Like at first, we have that education prepares the ground for social change. Now, how this education helps in preparing the ground for social change? We have inventions and discoveries. All these inventions and discoveries, we know that these are the starting elements of the social change that take place due to the only because of the education. So these inventions and discoveries are very essential for human progress. Second, we have the educational philosophers and the men of letters. The philosophers and men of letters means, they are usually the writers and who know a lot about the literature, and we call them as the men of letters. And they keep, introducing new ideas, they keep writing, they keep introducing the new concepts to the society, and people study them sooner or later, and they are influenced by them. Not all, but so many people are influenced, and all may be influenced too, but sooner or later they are influenced. Then we have the educational aims, right? Educational aims are formulated keeping in view the needs and demands of the society. So thus bringing social change are necessarily integrated into the aims of education. Education has two important functions to do. Firstly, it preserves the present material and non-material culture, and secondly, it adds something more to this culture every time, and thus it makes the society dynamic all the time. Education also, it motivates the people to realize the importance of social change in their individual as well as social lives, and thus it increases the people's participation in the process. So this is how the education prepares the ground for the social change. Next is that education makes the resistance to social change passive and dormant. Now, how the education makes this change, this resistance to social change? There are six forms of resisting factors, and six forms of resisting factors to change can be made inactive or powerless only because of the education. There are unscientific beliefs and irrational attitudes of the people, and these can also be changed. There are some irrational attitudes and beliefs of the people towards the customs and traditions, and that can also be changed by only the proper education. Mindset of the people, and this can also be changed to accept the new ideas, to accept the new objects for the ease of human life. Right? So it's only possible because of the education. And those who have some vested interest in the particular culture, their influence can be reduced also by awakening the masses through education. So it's only possible because of the education. And those who are living in isolation for centuries or decades can be brought to social mainstream by educating them properly. And once they are enlightened and educated, they would cease the resistance to social change. So education can also make the people accommodative and considerate. So these educated people will not just try to impose some culture on others by force. This will make the process of social change very natural. And above all, the culture lags. They can also be removed only by education. So education can change the thinking pattern of the people at a very fast rate and in a drastic manner. So in short, we can say that the education prepares the mentality of the people to welcome and adopt the desirable social change, and this is not done by the compulsion at all. So people are rather convinced logically about the utility and desirability of the new culture. Third is that the education evaluates the social change and removes its undesirable elements. Now, how this evaluates the social change? People, the people are attached to the process of education, and it evaluates all the social change by analyzing their merits and demerits. And these desirable elements, they are proposed for the society, and undesirable ones are just being discarded. So, thus, education lays down the criteria and norms of values and ideals in the context with the social change that are being evaluated. Education gives right direction to utilize the pleasure and satisfaction, derived from new inventions and discovery. So, this is done by studying their impacts on society and culture at present. So, this social change gives us many new topics for researchers. Social changes are brought about in the society in two ways. First, it's the gradual change, which is brought about by planned and systematic efforts. And second, it's the change that is brought about by movement and revolution. As far as the gradual change is concerned, it's based on the democratic principles, and it is done in a peaceful manner. And as far as the change by revolution is concerned, it's based on the fascism, and it advocates the bloodshed, it advocates the hatred and pressure as well. So education, it just prepares the ground for both depending on the need and circumstances. Education, it helps in analyzing the old customs and traditions in view of the present context, and lifeless knowledge or experiences are just weeded out. So in the process of this education, it overhauls the system all the time. Another one is that the social change determines the nature and functions of education. Now let's see how the social change determines the nature and functions of the education. Social change brings about the change in style of living of the people, and it also along with the change in their attitude. So as a result, direction and functions of education, they also change. And when culture changes, nature and pattern of education also change, just to adapt to the changing needs and demands. And for example, that science and technology is given very much importance today, just because this is the fast developing age of science and technology. And as a result of this, science and technology is given the maximum weightage in the curriculum as well. And when social change take place, society develops and creates many social institutions to popularize these changes. And schools and colleges are the most prominent of all social institutions. And these institutions, they really motivate the people to adapt these changes. So this was how the social change determines the nature and functions of the education. So now we'll just have a look on social change with reference to the Parsons theory, and how social change. How what was the Parsons concept of the social change? And this Talcott Parson, he was an American sociological thinker, and according to him, change is nothing but an alteration in structure and functions, or you can say the alteration in extent of structure and function. And for him, change always follow the cybernetic hierarchy of social change. And cybernetic means, the science of communication and automatic control system in both the machines and human beings and all living things. So the Parson feels that cybernetic hierarchy of control is something that change occurs with, something that is rich in information and something that is poor in information. And according to him, change is of two types. You know, first is the change in structure, that is gradual, and second is the structural change, that is sudden. As far as the change in structure is concerned, the first change, as per the Parson, it's gradual in nature, and gradual change, which over a period of time, it can bring, significant change. So he called this type of change as an institution to be, evolution. Change in structure, it refers to something that is gradual, that I already told you, and it takes a long time to happen, and it does not bring a significant change, but this since the time taken for the change is huge and large, so that insignificance would not essentially be viewed as significant, but yet it affects on multiple elements of that social system. So Parson called this as an evolution. As far as the structural change is concerned, which is a sudden change, sudden change is something that happens immediately or suddenly in a society, and it has its influence on all the dimensions of the social system. As I told you, that is a sudden change, and it has a change, it has an impact, it influences all the social system and all the dimensions of the social system. And according to the Parson, what is frequently found is change in structure, and where any change in adaptation, in goal attainment and integration levels, it results into the change in structure. So, he called this change in the latency, and he found, and moreover he also found, that in process of evolution a threshold arises where it leads to next level of change, which he called as an evolutionary universals. This way he also admitted himself that change is a continuous flux. So this is all. This is about the Parsons concept of social change. We discussed today the concept of education, concept of social change. How the education helps in bringing out the change in the society, and the Parsons concept of social change. This is all for today, and I'll be back tomorrow with my new video lecture, and that will be on the education management and principles and administration.